we have our two vests. I really hate the lighting in here. Good morning, friends. So today what I'm going to do is address a video that I promised but haven't posted yet. It was a project from last year, the final piece to my Renaissance outfit, the blue vest. As you can see, it's behind me. Now I've made it. I filmed making it, and the entire process was very stressful, and I don't know, I just couldn't quite get there. There was a lot of footage to get through, just kept building and building, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, so I had to keep adapting it. And so what I'm going to do is start over. So here's the final vest. As you can see, it looks different now. The brown bias is gone. I just ironed up some strips of the original fabric and used that as the bias tape. I've elongated the shoulders here to make it not so short, and I added more at the bottom with more of the fabric, kind of gave it the illusion of bias tape, but really what I was doing was just elongating the whole thing without making it look like it was elongated. I have put more work into this vest than anything else last year, and I'm finally finished with it, but I'm not going to keep it. It's going to go to a good home, and for myself, I'm just starting over. Yeah, the whole project was kind of a mess, and what I'm going to do is chalk it up to a practice run. So we're scrapping the footage on the whole thing and starting over. So what I have here is more fabric. Lucky find. If you recall the fabric haul video I did where I introduced every Demask sheet that I had found and bought on eBay. Even luckier, I found another sheet. So one of these is what's left over from the last sheet from making the vest. All right, let's unfold these. Okay, yeah, so this is the new sheet. There are no cuts on this. It's another twin and the same exact pattern and color from the last sheet that I bought. So I have this, a new twin sheet, plenty more fabric, and also I have some leftovers from the first sheet. Yeah, I was very stingy in the first making of this. So I've lined up the two sheets. This is the new one, the full twin, and this is what's left of the old one. And seeing them lined up now, you can kind of see that there's a bit of a difference in the sunlight. The old one is darker. Actually, it has an overall darker hue to the blue. And then over here, this new one is lighter. The camera isn't really doing it justice, but to the naked eye, this one I can see is definitely much darker than the new one, but they're still same brand, Ralph Lauren, same exact design. So aside from that slight difference in color, they are still the exact same, but what I'm realizing is I can't use both of them together, and if I do, I'd have to be creative about it. I could make multiple vests out of what I have left over, and then here's what's left over from what I used in the lining. So I have all of it still, just stored it away after making the vest and for the exact purposes of starting over. So I still have plans. I'm just woefully behind, and now we're bleeding into a new year. So much to do. Yeah, I might be able to get away with just making a new one out of what's left over, but I definitely didn't want to gamble that, so I have this new sheet to work with in case I need it, or if I just wanted to make multiple vests. Planning on using a different pattern entirely. I just didn't like that first pattern, or really how they designed the shoulders. So I bought a new pattern, a new Renaissance pattern, this one, and I'm gonna try again. I have until April to get this done. So that gives me 3 months to remake this whole vest. And this one, the one that I've remade to death, is not going to waste. It's going to a good home. I think she's really going to like it, so nothing is wasted here. I don't like being wasteful, and I have no intention of being wasteful, so we're just starting over.
The real trick with patterning this fabric was perfect alignment. Each piece was carefully folded and cut so that the pattern was perfectly centered with every piece. And since I'm making 2 vests in this video, there were a lot of pieces. I had already cut the pieces for the lining and the interface as practice before cutting into the fashion fabric. Given how valuable the fashion fabric is, I wanted as much practice before cutting into it as possible. To ensure perfect symmetry, you see how I pin a perfect centered fold every time I lay down a pattern piece. Also, you see how I give very generous seam allowance every time I cut. The process took several hours, but I believe it was worth it.
Good afternoon, friends. Today will hopefully be the last day for this particular vest. So what I've done to align the lining to the outer layer just as accurately as possible, every part of the edge where there is kind of an identifying feature, here's where the dart seam begins for both layers. So just go in and attach them together, the side seams, and make sure that those were aligned. And I did that all throughout. Of course, the center point, the exact perfect center of the bottom. You can still see the seam line when this was folded in half. And then, of course, the pattern side made it a little easier. Just made sure I lined it right where the pattern on the fabric centered. And then the shoulder seams, I made sure those were aligned and clip those together on both sides of both edges of the shoulder seam are attached. And that's how I'm keeping this together, is making sure that it is attached at all the important identifying points so it doesn't turn out to be crooked and uneven. So the more time I put into making sure that this is aligned, the less of a problem it'll be when I'm sewing it together. So the lining is finished. I know it's never necessary, but I always have to finish edges in the lining because normally it's such a delicate fabric that the edges just fray really, really easily. So I always like to just make sure all of the edges inside the lining is finished. As many places I can finish it. So that's all done. the outside piece is done, so the fashion fabric is all ready to go. Here's the inside of the fashion fabric with the interface, or in this case, upholstery fabric, which is a nice stiffening fabric. So what I'm going to do today is attach the lining to the outer piece, all across the edges, all the way around the collar, this, and then back down. And then the sleeve holes, I'll either hand sew them together and just kind of work it so it looks finished from the inside, or just wrap some extra fabric around the holes like I normally do with these vests. I'll just take what's left of the fashion fabric, make a few bias strips with it, and just attach it over the edges of the armholes. The next part will require some assistance, and that will be punching the grommet holes for the grommet. As soon as I can finish this one, we can tackle that one. Have two identical vests and two different cuts, and then we'll compare and contrast. Recording through, okay, that's what I thought it said. So what we do is that the thicker grommet goes like
on the
that,
bottom there,
and then you lay down the fabric
face down, and then a flat ring goes over the back. A flat ring kind of goes over that, and this is much easier when there's a hole punched already. I think that's backward. That's better. Having a cutting die will certainly help that.
Yeah.
Because this was, bouncy cardboard. Non-bouncy cardboard. Brute force, more or less. So that works. They're not...
Let's get the rest of the holes in, and then we'll just finish the rest today.
Yeah.
You'll notice in this video that I don't show a lot of footage of sewing the pieces together, given the fact that I've already shown so much of that construction in previous videos. It seemed pretty redundant, so this video will really focus on things that I'm trying differently and the comparison and contrasting of the two vests.
Okay, so here is the progress that I've made so far with the vest. And you can see if I close in here that this thing is just doused in pins, and there is a reason for that. And as I work today, the main goal will be just to pull out all of these pins as I go. But right now, all these pins are keeping the fashion side and the lining side perfectly aligned, so you can see every seam I've lined with pins. That's because on the other side is the other seams. With every seam on the outside, I'm making sure that the seam on the inside is aligned perfectly. And the lining is just a little bit bigger. Fortunately, it is the inside, so who's gonna notice? So what I do with this is that I just made sure it was centered and then worked my way out with each of the panels, so that way the allowance stays pinched here at the seams. So the important thing is that the panels stay aligned, and if there's a little bit of allowance on the part of the lining, then it'll just stay billowed here, but that won't really affect the fit of the overall vest because most of the control will be here on the outside. So what I'm going to do now is stay stitch the lining to the fashion, and I'm doing this a little bit differently from the easier vest. With the easier vest, I laid the lining and the fashion right sides together, and then I stay stitched and flipped inside out. So yeah, this one is bound to be a little bit more difficult, but there hopefully that will show in the end results. So that's today's project, will be to stay stitch the lining to the fashion layer and get all of these pins back out of the vest so we can get started on the bias tape.
First of all, I know 80% of the sewing I do on these vests are all by hand. And here, I don't know if this is a stitch that exists. It's just something that feels right to keep the stitch as invisible as possible. I needed to make room so when I install the grommets, there wouldn't be anything in the way.
Okay, so just a quick update since I last picked up the phone. What I'm doing right now is trying to get the bias tape onto the edges. I'm just experimenting a little. So I tried out a few places before recording. Just wanted to make sure that it was sustainable. So I think what I'm doing is working. The trick is, but because this bias tape is so thin, I think it's about half an inch according to the label here. Half an inch, there it is. Yeah, so not very wide, but it's definitely getting the job done. So what I need to do here is I pin one side on, and then I have to trim down the edges so close to where I made the stitches, the stay stitches earlier. So now that the stay stitches are intact, it's not just keeping the layers together, but it's also acting as a guide of how close I can trim. So we're going to start by sewing this down on one side, and then we're going to fold it over and then sew the other side. We're going to use our handy dandy invisible stitch for the outside because that's the side that people can see, but the inside doesn't really matter much. It just needs to stay on, so I'm not really too worried about how the stitches on the inside look. But so far I think it's going pretty well. I am leaving a bit of a mess because of all the trimmings and the threads I'm covered in right now and all across the floor here, so there will be vacuuming later, but right now the concern is to get this vest looking like a vest.
So right now, as I'm stay stitching the armholes area, what I'm doing is I'm feeling along the fabric, and the interface is thick enough that I can feel this edge through the fashion layer and the lining layer, so I can feel that kind of dip that the edge would give. And I'm just sewing right along the edge of that interface, because the interface was cut just along the edge of the pattern. Normally with the fashion layer I give a generous seam allowance, which is what this is, a very generous seam allowance. So once this is all stay stitched all the way around the armhole, I will trim all of this, and then we will add the bias tape. So we already have the bias tape added to the collar. So now we're working on the armholes, and once the armholes are done, I think we'll have enough bias tape to also do the very bottom of vest. So every part of the vest will have bias tape around the edges. That'll just keep everything nice and clean on the outside. So with one vest we did try the inside out method, and now with this vest we're trying a different method of stay stitching all the way around and just using bias tape to finish every edge. So in a way this is much easier method for making this vest versus making the last vest, but we're just using the same fabric to try different patterns and different methods. Okay, so we're here at the end, but this is the most important part because we need this point right here, this point, to still be perfectly centered with the design. So we're aligning the point right at the bottom of the center of this bouquet, I suppose it is, and that's going to keep it all centered along with the rest of pattern. So we're sewing this down first, and then we'll just finish stitch up the rest of the bias tape. But yes. And then once this is all finished, we're going to go back here, tuck in the ends of this raw edge, and sew that down. That'll be the last thing we do tonight. And then hopefully tomorrow the grommets can begin. We do like the grommet process, don't we? Yes. Randy does love the grommet process.
Yeah.
We have vest 1 and 2 laid side by side, so all we have left to do here is add the holes in the grommets for the front of vest 2, which we've already done for the first vest. And since I can't find my yardstick, I won't be able to measure like I normally do. I never use the pattern for the grommet holes. I just estimate, not even estimate, I measure the distance between each grommet hole and mark, and then I punch with an awl, and then I will punch with a thicker awl, and then we will insert the grommets with the grommet machine like we did here, but no yardstick. So gonna have to get a little creative here, and I'm hoping it works, but there's no reason that it won't. So we have a total of 6 grommets for each panel, and I'm estimating we'll have about that for down here. 5 is too few, 7's too many. It usually rounds out to 6 because I usually measure an inch between each grommet, so it's even placement of an inch between each one. It always amounts to 6 grommets, so that's what we have here. So since I can't find my yardstick, what we're going to do, take the first vest, align it with the edge of the second vest, and I'm going to just stab right through the grommet into the panel behind it. So I'll just get this aligned as evenly as possible, and then we're just going to make a nice punch. Yeah, so a little bit, tiny bit longer than the first vest, but it is roughly the same size. Just a little bit longer up here, a little bit longer down here, but I would still estimate that there would be 6 grommets for each panel. So I'll get this better aligned, and then we'll see once and for all if 6 will be enough.
Let's remember how to do this.
Okay, so pixel lighting in here. Better, worse. Computer, good morning. I never like using the artificial lights, but seems like that's the best option I have right now. Okay, good morning. Today we are finally doing the try-on for both the vests. I have them both here. I have the skirt and also the petticoat. So what you see right now would be the Renaissance equivalent of underwear. This sundress and the blouse is mocking a chemise that would go on underneath. What we're going to do is try it on the outfit piece by piece with the 2 vests as the final piece. So the first thing I'm going to need, of course, is my petticoat. Next step will be the skirt. Alright, that's right there on the waist, nice and snug. And so we have our 2 vests. I really hate the lighting in here. Alright, okay, lighting's fixed, so let's see if this can show up on the camera better now. We have this vest we've never tried on before. We have this vest which we have tried on before. So I do already know how this looks, so we're going to try on the vest that we haven't tried on before first, just to get an idea of if I was even remotely accurate with the fitting on this. The problem with this vest has always been getting the seams aligned properly with the curves of my body, and every woman's different. Her curves are different, so it's just a matter of trial and error when making a vest like this. It's never guaranteed, it's never a universal fit because we just don't know what the size is in proportions to the waist and the bust. A lot of people are very different in this regard. And then there's, of course, the problem I had with the last vest. It was too short on my body, so the main priority with fitting this one was to get it to a point where it wasn't so high up. The proportions were just wrong, so I made efforts to make sure this one was long and hit me at the waist at all the appropriate places. There we go. Wow, it's fitting very, very well, so I'm happy with that. It's tightening up better than I thought, better than I hoped it would, but that's what these are designed to do. It doesn't look like it's gonna reach all the way to the front until you have a lace. You put some elbow grease into it and the whole thing just tightens up and cinches in all the loose bits. That's what these are designed to do. Of course, this time I did not include boning. If it had been boned, the structure would be even better because like none of the fabric would be going anywhere. The bones are designed to keep the fabric straight as it laces, so there's no bunching. Okay, so this is the final fit. Let me just step in so you can get a better look. So there is a problem with the bunching around the curve of this pattern piece, and it's a little off center, but honestly, from a distance, you probably couldn't even tell that there's something wrong with it. I also noticed that the vest straps have wings, and they're supposed to hit right here at the shoulder. I don't know if I have time to fix that just now, but if I did have time, what I would do is just trim all along here to make sure those straps are just nice and narrow, resting on the shoulder, because right now they got a bit of wing to it. So that's something I can definitely fix in the future. So all I have to really do is take off the bias tape, trim this down to here, and then re-sew. So instead of having these little wings, it'll be a nice narrow fit right here, like that. But for the most part, this fits a lot better than the old one did. And so the side curve here is supposed to rest right at the narrowest point of the waist, so that gives you that really nice cinched illusion. That's what these vests are designed to do. It's supposed to curve. The V here is supposed to make you look very narrow from the front, and then it just goes right up to the natural part of the waist. And then here's the back. I can't see the back quite now, but same in the back. The curve is supposed to give the illusion that I am in fact narrower than I am. And here it is, the final product. So yeah, a little bit of tweaking is in order, but I'm really happy with the new bias tape. Alright, so this is the final product. I did cut it a size up and then altered down as I went, so there was no risk of it being too small by the time I fitted it. It's usually what I do with these commercial patterns. You never know if their sizing is going to be accurate or not, so I always cut above and then tailor down. Custom fitting is always the best way to go because you can just mold it right to your body. So this definitely is a much better vest than the first one. And so now we decide if I'm going to wear this vest on Saturday or if we're going to go with the first vest that I tried on. Which one would actually look better on me? I think this one is a really good fit. I like the contrast of the border in consideration of this little issue. I might just wear this one for now. I do have one ready to go for the Renaissance Fair on Saturday, so there's no rush.
And we have our winner. It is Vest 1. Alright, so thank you so much for tuning in. I know this video was several years late. It took a lot of shooting, reshooting, and multiple weeks of editing just to get this finished for you guys. But as you know, I'm a completionist, and it would never have felt right for me not to post this video. So better late than never. And don't forget to stay tuned for Halloween, because we still have a lot of really cool plans for the future. And So we'll see you guys in the next one.
Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe. Isn't that what YouTube wants us to say? Our Lords and Master at Google? Yeah.